You are watching Omnis Protocol. I am Charles, also known as Omnis, and I am here with a Marvel Crisis Protocol battle report. This one is featuring X-Men, led by Cyclops, played by my buddy Brett, and then I am playing Sentinels, led by Sentinel Prime. And also what's exciting about this game, this is the first one I recorded utilizing a second side view cam to switch between views, which is something that I'm experimenting with to just enhance this whole experience. So let me run through the list just real quick. So Cyclops brought, Spectrum as a splash with Gambit, Cable, and Colossus. And I have Sentinel Prime with both of the Mark IV Sentinels, Red Skull Master of the World, and the Doggo. And so the thought process there was, hey, let's bring some stuff that teleports the Sentinels around. And then the mission is a wedding party on both sides. So we're invading the wedding on the Hydra base, Matt. So let's just dig right into the matchup, shall we? So let's see. So this is a mixture of 3D printed terrain with official Hydra terrain. It's actually got a couple of little pieces that came from Shatterpoint terrain to kind of round out as some bonus size 2s to really kind of fill out the table. And so here, I just rolled for priority and won, which was not what I wanted. I definitely would have preferred to go second in this situation. And so here what I'm thinking is, at least on the top side of the mat, I am unlikely to take kind of initial attacks, or at least very minimal. And so might as well start on that side. I was also wondering, do I want to pick up the extract right away or have Red Skull do it? But I was actually a little concerned that Colossus could just walk over there and take the extract on my side. And that could have been slightly problematic for me, especially if I was activating someone over there. So I elected to grab the extract and be on the point. And then here we've got the first transition to side view camera. And so in this particular case, still figuring out exactly where I want that side view camera positioned. But I figured since I had top down, I should, try to capture something a little bit more close up, a little bit more zoomed in. And so I was just remembering that I do get 2 power on my Sentinel, and Colossus just grabbed the objective and then also walked up onto the secure. So not super surprising. Facing off against Cable in the bottom left. Also, if you've watched the videos before, I rotated the view a bit, and the thought process was if I'm including the side view camera, I thought it would be important to try to keep the same perspective so it still feels like you're looking at the game from the same angle to try to help keep you kind of figuring out where you wanted to be. So there I've got, I went ahead and moved up the other Sentinel now. And I'm not having him grab the objective yet. My plan there is that I will have the Doggo grab it, but I felt like I had to do an early activation and bring him towards the middle at some point, and that felt like the best opening play. I think there is certainly a conversation here of using the dog to teleport Prime forward now and grab that objective. But yeah, I could go either way on that one. I did get to use acceptable collateral damage and destroy a size 2 piece of terrain for the Sentinel to land on. That was my first time doing that. Very exciting. And so Cable body slides by 2 forward, and he is kind of on the extract but doesn't have power to pick it up yet. He did get within range 3 of the Sentinel. And so he's going to get 5 dice, re-roll 2. I end up with 1 block, 3 skulls. He has 2 skulls and 3 successes with wild. So I'm going to take 2 and be incinerated. So at least off to a start, but we're rolling a lot of skulls to kind of get things underway. All right, now he's spending a power to pick up the guest. I think there is a conversation that maybe you wait. If you're taking another attack, he's not going to max out on power on one attack, but you might be in a perfect spot where you want to throw. So he ends up with 6 successes on 5 dice after his reroll 2. I block 2, take 4. So things are definitely swinging for Cable initially, and it's Cyclops leadership. And so the first trigger, he passed a power to Cyclops. And now he's going to pass a power to Spectrum. I think we'll catch up on that in just a moment. I do think here the correct rotation would have been he should have moved the first power to Spectrum so that he could roll 7 dice into the Sentinel. And yeah, there we go. We've put the other power on Spectrum now. But yeah, it should have been Spectrum first, Cyclops second. Because definitely increases the odds of getting the second one through, which would mean that Cyclops also has power for hit and run or whatever you want to do with him. But man, Cable coming out swinging. I did not feel good about that at all. Starting off with 6 damage already. I mean, it's probably not even like that crazy of an outcome, all things considered. And I got lucky that he didn't do the Spectrum play. So maybe 6, isn't even an unreasonable thing to have happened there. And so I'm activating Doggo. He gets some extra power, and he's spending 2 of it to place the Sentinel forward, and then he's going to walk forward and spend the other 1 that he gained to pick up the extract. And so I didn't even bother putting the 3 on the card because I knew I was going to spend 3 in that activation. And you get to see my cool Doggo where I cut him in half and he's teleporting. And so here what we've got is he's going to move Spectrum up and I believe beam over the 2 Sentinels. Little proton blast action. All right. The Mark IV Sentinel, not Prime, is being attacked first. I definitely considered whether I should sacrifice here and protect the Sentinel, but since it's already activated and there's a potential Cyclops, I didn't really want to waste a card. And so I start off blocking 1. And he's going to take the reroll all, which does get him the 3 successes, which will daze my Sentinel. Again, there's an argument you could make to play sacrifice there to protect it, but I just felt like even if I sacrifice, he's going to have to just sit there and take another shot from Cyclops. And so I felt like I had to believe in the dice if I wanted him to be alive. I don't really want to play sacrifice unless it specifically protects an objective or protects like a key activation. And then Prime's also getting hit. I'm blocking 2. He's electing to go ahead and just take the 1 damage on Prime, as opposed to doing a reroll all. All right, that ends Spectrum's activation. I think there's a conversation there where she may have wanted to boost one of those 2 attacks, because either way she was going to end up with bonus power. And that has now, now she was then able to pass a power to both Cyclops and to Cable. And so there's the Cable power. So Cyclops hasn't even activated and he's at 3 power. That's a huge deal. All right, so I'm now going, hey, I've got 2 power on Prime. Let's start off with an 8 dice energy attack into Cable. Cable is going to add 2 defense dice. Gotta get some of this offensive train rolling my direction. I end up with 2 successes on 8 dice, and so I deal him 1 damage. Definitely not the way I was hoping for that whole exchange to start off after the beating that I took, but we got Marvel dice, baby. You got to roll with the punches. So I gained 1, so I'm going to spend the 1 to roll 7 dice into him. Got to get a spike eventually, right? And so I end up dealing 0 damage because he started off blocking 3 and I did not even have 3 successes. All right, little transition back to top-down view. So Doggo teleports Sentinel forward. Sentinel rolls an 8 dice attack and a 7 dice attack into Cable and does all of 1 damage. Cyclops walks forward and then is going to walk up onto the objective. And he's going to play To Me, My X-Men here. And he is going to use it to dash Cable, short move Cable onto the secure. Now, I think there's a argument here where you conserve the card and just field leader Cable onto the point, which accomplishes the same thing but saves the card for a later time. But there may be some consideration here where Brett just wants power on Cyclops to guarantee that he's in the position to hit and run or do other things next turn. And and sometimes To Me, My X-Men can be a little bit awkward to use. I think there's also a conversation if you're using To Me, My X-Men in that situation that you also pull Gambit forward so that he's potentially getting onto the middle objective and making an attack. So I'm already feeling very disadvantaged at the bottom, and that was kind of where I thought I was going to win the exchange. And so here, I end up walking forward with Red Skull. I have a couple of options with this play. My thought process was shoot, hope for 1 damage to get through on Colossus, and then teleport myself onto the point, because I could take the 2 power from the Sentinel and the 1 power he started with. So if I had 4, I could have teleported up. However, that did not work out. It might have been a little bit dicey, because Colossus was going to have cover, but yeah, just didn't work out. So I'm starting off severely disadvantaged with a 6-2 deficit. And now here we're just kind of double checking the wording of resolving the secure, try to make sure we do this cleanly. And so haven't played Wedding Party a ton of times. The basic gist is we're going to move them range 2, and then characters within range 2 after the placement are going to lose a power. And I did not control either of them, so I get to move both of them. So, minor win, I guess? And so I'm kind of thinking, I want the little Sentinel to start off contesting it, and there's not as much consequences for that at the moment, because he can't lose power. And yeah, he's already been dazed, so at this point he cannot lose power. I might have been able to find a position where I could have kept it within range 2 of Cyclops so that Cyclops would lose a power, but that didn't feel worth it. All right. I am starting with priority, so here's the thing. He got to attack my stuff after I got onto objectives, but I get the potential chance to swing first and try to take an activation away from him. And we do have some extracts moving characters around. So this is the characters holding extracts get pushed towards a secure of your opponent's choosing in a direction that your opponent's choosing, but it has to be towards a secure. And this is not optional. You can choose an angle where they bump into something, but you do have to do this. You can't choose to not have them be shoved. But this isn't hugely beneficial for me. Basically, I elect to have Colossus slide towards Gambit, which would mean he would be overhanging the terrain, so he just backs up to where he's at. And then Cable slides just a little bit. And he's choosing to have my Sentinel slide into the building so that he does not move. And so in this particular case, he is going to have the doggo slide towards the other secure that's over by Gambit. We were checking to see if that angle was good, that he clears the terrain, which he definitely did. All right. All right, my priority activation. I'm already flipping a Sentinel. Does not feel good, but thankfully I do have access to online and operational. And so the thought process is that I activate Sentinel Prime, make sure that he has 4 power come the end of the round, and hope, dream situation is I daze someone and I bring that Sentinel back to full. That is the goal of the activation. And what I'm kind of double checking here was that there was a window to play the card because the card does not have to be during Prime's activation. So I could play it during my turn after Prime has finished activating and gains 2 different power. So I'm just thinking at the end of his activation, I need to have 2 power before he gains 2 so I can play the card. If you zoom in on the card in the video, I have an old one that says 8, but that card has been eroded to cast 4. I was wondering if Directive 1 was going to be useful at all, but I actually think it's totally useless in this matchup. Nobody has stealth, and unless we end up in a situation where there's line of sight blocking situation, Directive 1 is kind of pointless. So I'm going to start off spending 2 to roll 8 dice, trying to decide Cyclops versus Cable. I elect to attack Cyclops, and Cable still gives him dice. And he's blocking 4, and so I do nothing. And so now here's really risky, because I need to end up with 1 power. And so if I elect to roll a 7 dice attack and do nothing again, I'm in a really bad spot. And so I don't risk it. He blocks 3. I have 5, so he will take 2. So then at the end of his turn, he will gain 2. And then I'm going to spend 4 to do online and operational and flip the Mark IV back to its front side. So recover 8 health. That's not too bad, right? I think that card is really good. And so, I was trying to, keep myself psyched up in this moment where I'm like, he played to me my X-Men, I played 1 card, and now the net result is I have, 1 damage on Prime, he has 3 damage across his characters, right? That's kind of fair, but not getting anything really out of 2 Prime activations definitely has me worried if I can come back into this game. And so here is wondering, can he now just go straight back into getting rid of my Sentinel? And so I'm just going to elect to sacrifice the first attack. I like to not play sacrifice, actually. I'm like, might as well wait and... and he gets 4 damage through, and I block nothing. Oh, this is a Cyclops activation, so he's going to do Optic Devastation now. He had selected to hit and run, so now we're just getting that resolved. Okay. So he has moved. Now we're doing the Optic Devastation. Cyclops beams! So here we're just reviewing that Spectrum adds dice to an individual attack, not to both dice pools, but he's already used it, so... so Prime has taken the first hit. And 4 successes. And so I end up blocking 2, so it takes 2 damage on Prime. I think here I should play Sacrifice, but for some reason I did not. And so I'm blocking 2. He ends up with 6 successes, which is the exact amount to daze. And so now I'm at a point where I can have 1 die that can be re-rolled, and I have to re-roll 1 die into a chance that he still gets an activation. Yeah, I think that was probably a situation where I needed to sacrifice. And yeah, I was thinking about it earlier in the turn, and then losing that activation, for someone who's totally loaded on power, and all of that 8 damage didn't give him really any more power, just losing that activation really hurt. And I mean, I would have activated him first and had Prime heal him if Prime's initial attacks had actually gotten a little bit of damage through, so that Prime would have had power on him, but no success there. So now I'm just kind of thinking, how do I salvage this turn? I put a whole lot of power into the bottom objective, and that is not working out for me. And I'm starting to think that even though I kind of had a plan for how I was going to use Lockjaw to teleport 1 forward, usually my plan for a mission like this is to really try to give up on one side completely and be able to pivot as hard as possible to one side. And I just felt like that was a little bit of a struggle with Sentinels. Yeah. Let's see. So this was Sentinel into Gambit. I got 2 damage through. And he's going to enhance agility away. And enhance agility is any direction now, so he's just kind of figuring out where he wants to go. So he's taking the chance to be on the objective. He's still in range 3, so I'm not worried about pulling him. So I'm going to go ahead and blast Gambit again, I think. Thinking, I have got to take an activation at some point if I'm going to, make back up some ground. And here, crit wild, so Gambit is blocking 3, and so I get no damage through. Sentinel attacks are not here for me. I think they must know I'm a mutant at heart. I was going into the automatic pull him, and I was like, then I kind of backed out of that opinion. I was like, he hasn't activated, he's going to get back onto it anyway. I mean, maybe it would have been still worthwhile to pull him off, thinking that if he wants to contest it, then he has to spend one of his actions to move. So probably would have still been a good idea to pull him. But I was a little worried about pulling them forward and letting him double tap Red Skull. And so this is Cyclops punching my Sentinel Mark IV. And no damage goes through. Wild push that can't push a size 5. And he has 1 damage from Colossus. And I had 3 blocks on that one. So Colossus just kind of hangs out. And so there's still a Gambit activation, a Spectrum activation, and a Cable activation. And I am running out of useful stuff to do here. And so here I'm going, well, at this point, I'm thinking, let's just, because Colossus didn't end up with power, I feel safe to just kind of go after Gambit here. I end up with 4, but Gambit is blocking 3. So I'm still just going to get 1 damage through. And Gambit is shocked now. So now it's a question of, is he going to enhance agility again? He is going to elect to enhance agility. I take 1 damage, I gain a power for it. Gambit, just zooming around. Getting the zoomies. All right, so now I'm considering, do I teleport forward, shoot him, and then see how it goes? Or do I walk up and throw something at him? Yeah, so just a little bit of deliberation here. I thought there'd be really interesting synergies with Red Skull, with the Sentinel for the, borrowing power for placing. So he is going to go ahead and place himself forward. And he is going to blast Gambit again. So thought process here is I'd like to remain in sacrifice range and not be within range 2 of Colossus. But I can't check those things during a place. And so I did accomplish what I wanted to there. Energy versus Mystic doesn't matter into Gambit, so I'm going to roll another 5 dicer into Gambit. Gambit's blocking 2. I do have 4 successes, so that would put 2 through, but now he's considering if this is the time for Xavier's Dream. So he does elect to dream to keep Gambit alive. So Cyclops is going to spend 1, Spectrum is going to spend 1, and that makes it so no damage goes through on Gambit. So, yeah, just not feeling like I'm getting a whole lot of work done this turn with Sentinels, which I don't think is their fault. I don't want to blame dice. There's certainly some degree of deployment issues that may have happened due to playing Sentinels and like having a little less, options, where I've been playing a lot of like Spectrum, Echo, Zemo, Foes, like playing so much fast stuff. It is definitely a change of pace to switch to playing Sentinels. And so here I've got a Doggo activation left, and then there is still Cable and Spectrum. And so I've got to decide if it's worth activating Doggo first or passing but risking losing Doggo's activation completely. I generally am very opposed to giving my opponent 2 activations back to back, but sometimes you do have to accept that, because if you pass only to lose that activation anyway, it's obviously worse. Oh, sorry. We still have a Gambit activation to do first, so that was a little preemptive conversation there. He's going to go ahead and activate Gambit. I think this would be a point where I probably would choose to do Cable in his position and see if I can take the Lockjaw activation away, because nothing is affecting the Gambit activation back there. So he's going to walk forward, attack Red Skull. One damage goes through. He did not have the power before the attack to convert a hit to a wild, so he does not shove me off the point. I think we might have forgotten about Shock, though. But no damage. No, 1 damage went through. Okay, so now we're back to the prior discussion, which is, do I activate Doggo and let him do 2 characters, or do I try to endure an activation first? So I do elect to pass. And so I'm just feeling like if I'm going to do something cool with Doggo, I think I need some power on Doggo. And so I'm thinking I just have to hope a little bit that the dog survives an activation, which in general, my dog seems to live. Lockjaw doesn't usually just go down without a fight. So body slide by 2 forward. And after rerolls, Cable has 3 versus 1. And so 2 damage, and dog is now incinerated. And so he's going to do it again. And here we're just checking to see if he's going to Spectrum dice. So he did deal damage, so he gets to give a power to Spectrum. And so he is going to elect to use Spectrum dice to add 2 more to Cable's attack. I roll with 0 blocks. He starts off with 3, reroll 2, into 4 total. And so looks like I forgot to do my defensive reroll there. I think I was just so happy to be alive. And so he throws a terrain at me and I brace it. All right, so now I got the Doggo activation. He lived, which is about all I could ask for. He's in a gain 3 power because he's still within range 2 of an ally. Here we were just putting a power on Cyclops because Cable did in fact deal damage. And so Doggo is getting bonus dice into Cyclops and then is attacking Cyclops. And so adding shields to Cyclops. I had no successes, so I didn't bother doing the reroll because he was already blocking 1. So no damage goes through. And I'm already losing the point, so I figured try to take damage here. He's blocking 2. So I do 2 rerolls from Prime. So he's taking 2. I have 4 successes versus 2 blocks. And so not enough to get a wound yet. He's got 2 health left. So I'm going to spend 3 to throw terrain at Cyclops. So now just got that normal deliberation. Do you hope that Cyclops can block 2 and live, or do you just blow brace? And he elects to spend 1, brace, and guarantee Cyclops lives. I think there's an argument that keeping Cyclops alive there is not critically important because it's not affecting any scoring. And so I think there's definitely a conversation there where you just roll it, but then there is a problem at the beginning of next round. Like if I kill Cyclops, you lose the leadership. So that's the argument. So he walks up with Spectrum. Spectrum punches Dog. I'm blocking 2. She's dealing 2. So Dog lives on 1. See, my dog usually survives a beating. But that is my 1 small consolation prize for what has otherwise been a pretty awful turn. And so we tied on that one, so he's only going to score 4 and go to 10, but I'm still only scoring 2 and going to 4. And now we actually move the tracker to turn 3, or round 3. So I had no power on Prime, and the Sentinel Mark IV was dazed, so no power loss there. And so Cable lost 1 power. So now we're powering up characters. I've got to flip the Mark IV again. I do have priority, but we've got to shuffle. We got to resolve the pushes for the extracts. And so Cable and Colossus. And so Cable slides a little bit. And so I was asking Brett to go ahead and hold it, and I was going to push Cable. Didn't want him to end up with cover anymore if I could help it. All right, so Doggo slides into the Sentinel, and he's going to have the Sentinel bump the building again, so no movement. And I'm not confident in a Prime activation at this point. And so I'm going to activate the Mark IV just in case he immediately leaves the table. And we're just going to launch out with some spenders. So first one on Cable. 8 dice physical. He rolls bonus dice. And so I have 6 successes versus 1. I'm electing to spend the 1 from Prime to see if I can get a 1-shot, which I do get. And so that'll deal 6 damage to Cable. And so at least there I've taken away an activation. Things are coming back. Things are coming back a little bit. I do not give up on games. And he's going to go ahead and pick up the extract. And then he's going to roll another suppression protocols, this time into Cyclops. This is physical into Cyclops. Cyclops rolls 1 block. And I have 4 successes, so 2 damage goes through, which will also daze Cyclops. So, taking out the summer boys. It's wintertime up in this bee. Need to end the summers. And then at the end of his activation, he gains 1 power. Well, so not bad. I don't know if that'll get me back into things, but at least created some initial pressure. And so here we were trying to figure out if she could photon blast everyone. But I didn't realize now, actually, so even though I went through and I was editing this video to bring in the thing, totally forgot about, I don't think he realized that he could place her before doing the attacks as part of going all out. Because I think it would have been easy for him to place and then be able to hit all of them. And so I'm not willing to sacrifice for Lockjaw at the moment. I do forget here that this is going all out, and so the crit doesn't explode. But he rerolls into just, into no successes, so the fact that I exploded the crit didn't matter. All right, now an attack into the Sentinel. So this is where we're like, oh, yeah, crits don't matter, so... And so the crit doesn't count, and it wouldn't have exploded, so I only block 1, so I'm going to take 2 damage. Yeah. So I block 1, take 2 damage. She gains a power. And now she is going to beam again. She does have 2 powers, so she can boost one of those attacks. And so here I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice to the Sentinel, hoping that the Sentinel can live through all. Well. And so I'm blocking 1. So 1 damage goes through. And then she is going to elect to boost the last one and roll 6 dice into the Sentinel. And I'm blocking nothing, and she ends up with 4 successes, so that is going to kill the Sentinel. And so that drops the objective, and the first Sentinel leaves the table. I put 3 power on Doggo, but I'm not... 1, I think, is probably within range 2 of the Prime, but I wish I had checked in that moment. And so now Doggo is going to go ahead and beat up on Spectrum. She crits into 1 block. I have 2 successes, reroll. And so block 1 takes 3. So 3 health left on her. And so roll another 5 dice attack into her. She blocks nothing. Doggo dazes her. Now, the problem with this chain of events is I have taken control of that side, but now I've also I left myself in a situation where I don't really have anything to do with Sentinel Prime's activation. I think there's a conversation there where I potentially... Yeah, Prime can't even pick up the objective, so that's a problem. I think that was a mistake on my part, and I should have done Prime first and accepted that maybe the doggo goes down. We finally remembered here that, oh yeah, I do actually have a leadership that will give me power, and so we're doing a little bit of retroactive stuff. The first activation killed Cable first, which would give basically everyone a power. And then killing Cyclops was the same turn, so nobody could gain power again. So it was basically give one power to everyone, and then when Doggo wounds her, I get to give power to everyone who's alive. But yeah, in retrospect, I think at that activation, I should have accepted that Doggo might go down, and I think I should have used Red Skull to try to take the Gambit activation in that moment. But since I do have a bunch of power on Red Skull, I like to go for Cosmic Obliteration. But yeah, I got too focused on finishing off that side of the table, and I think I should have tried to take the Gambit activation away. But Colossus has 2 power now, so it could certainly be hard to actually stop that. But part of the thing was I was like, Lockjaw has a bunch of power. I want to be able to, that's what that token is out there, where I've added additional dice against Gambit and against Colossus if I want. So here I do have 3 activations left, so it is possible for him to pass. Yeah, Gambit being at 1. Yeah. Yeah, I think activating Lockjaw was a mistake. I think I should have thrown terrain at Gambit, just try to finish him off since he's at 1 health and Brace is gone now, and then potentially shot Colossus twice with Red Skull. And so he uses Children of the Atom to remove the shock and the root that I put on him. The Cosmic Obliteration does leave Colossus rooted, so he can't use his ability to walk up to Gambit. So, yeah, I definitely think I should have done Red Skull instead of Lockjaw there. Because I don't think Colossus is getting in range to punch the dog, so yeah, that would have just been a better activation. I'm blocking 4. He changes a hit to a wild. So no damage, but he gets to push Red Skull. And he just slides Red Skull backwards. And so he gets a power, so now he's going to do 52 card pickup and beam both of them. On Red Skull first. Red Skull is blocking 2 crits. But it ends up being no damage because it's just 2 crits versus 2 blocks. Now into Sentinel. I am blocking 2, so he has a wild and a hit, and then he's going to spend a power to make the wild into or the hit into a wild, so he has 4 successes with 2 going through. And he does have 2 wild, so that now stuns the Sentinel. So all things considered, that's actually fine. So the question here of, can I daze Colossus before he activates? So I'm going to go ahead and just get a Red Skull activation in. Roll 5 into Gambit. But only one. He blocks 1. I have 2 successes, so 1 damage goes through. And so he rolls nothing. I had 4 successes, so then the last attack will daze Gambit. So I daze the guy. He is 3 costs, so I get to hand out some power. Oh, Prime can pick up an objective. That's because he's going to have power from all the stuff dying. All right. Red Skull then teleports himself onto the objective. I have Prime and the Mark IV, and he has a Colossus activation remaining. I did forget to roll the bonus dice into Red Skull, which is kind of frustrating because it would have been, if I'd gotten 1 more damage through on the first attack, then that potentially saves a whole activation for Red Skull. But I realized that way too late for us to try to back up and change things. All right, and then Colossus is going to punch Johann Schmidt. I block nothing, and so Colossus is going to daze Johann Schmidt. He is specifically choosing not to push Johann. And the problem here on this side is that Colossus cannot be pulled by the restraint cables, so now I cannot score that objective unless I literally kill Colossus. And so now he's just wondering if he's going to throw terrain. And so he's just considering if he wants to throw something at the Sentinel. But he is not going to. He's going to save the power. So I get to do both the activations now, but now I have a Prime activation where he's like the most powerful character on the team, but doesn't really get to contribute in any meaningful way. And I can't really run him to the other side because then I would not score that secure because Lockjaw is not on it. So I go ahead and roll a suppression protocol with bonus dice into Colossus, but I do no damage and I just incinerate him. And then I'm going to do it again. Or, no, this one I'm going to now energy attack him to try to build some power back up. So, 8 dice energy with the bonus die from Lockjaw. He's going to go ahead and add defense dice. He is blocking 2, reducing by 1. I have 4 successes, so he takes 1. Yeah. So Prime is now just going to pick up the extract and then walk closer to the action. Poor Prime, just not getting to do anything cool. So, unfortunately, with like how good that turn went for me, I'm only scoring 5. So I go to 5. And yeah, I think that was also a mistake on my part where I should have walked the Sentinel onto the point at least to deny the points. Making the second attack, I think it just in my head, I was like, oh, I'm losing that point now because I couldn't pull him off and I didn't have another guy on it. But I think in reality, I should have walked that Sentinel onto that point so that I at least deny 2 points to him because I just needed the deficit to be closer. Because it could have been 9-11, which then is a potentially very manageable game as long as things don't go absolutely awful for me. But the problem with a turn like what I just had is now I don't have anybody softened up to go for a kill. Now, he has used all of his cards, so there's no more Xavier's Dream, there's no more Brace. And so if I really only need, like one really big activation, and then I could potentially take control of things. But yeah, not moving the Sentinel onto the point there, I think, was a significant mistake. But that's the plus side of being able to watch some of these things in retrospect. You can catch some of this stuff just in general discussion, especially if you leave models out. But I find that I learn a lot from going through my games, and that's part of why I release these games for the public, because I think we can all learn from them. Where it's hard to be learning from your mistakes in the moment all the time, just because you're now thinking about your next play. You're not going over any of the plays that you had already made. But when you're watching them on video, it's a whole lot easier to kind of like zone in. And you're like, you know what? Actually, there was not really any good reason for me to do that play. So we can learn together. My mistakes are your mistakes. We can share in my mistakes. So I flipped a bunch of his guys, but it also means everybody's loaded on power for big turns. And he has priority again. Switching over to the cool side view. All right. Who is he going to open up with? Problem is there's... Lockjaw has 1 health. I've got 3 damage on Prime, like 3 damage on the Sentinel. And man, so there's definitely some concern here that like a cable activation here. Or, I mean, he's got beams from the other 2. So I definitely have a worry that like Prime and Doggo lose activations. And so Cable is starting off rolling 5 dice into Doggo, which will daze Doggo because he had 1 health left and he's still incinerated. And then Cable picks up the extract that the Doggo drops. We did forget about moving stuff. At least moving from the extracts that round, but I don't think it was hugely impactful. He could have Prime slide into Doggo, Doggo slide into Prime, other Sentinels slide into the building. The one benefit would be is that I could maybe slide Colossus into a less optimal position. And so he added Spectrum dice to the Cable attack. So 8 successes. And so I have 3 blocks versus 8 successes, so I can reroll 1 to try to stay alive. But I really have to. If I want any chance to stay in this, I have to. So I block 4. And so I was, yeah, so I'm at 7. So yeah, I was going to live through the attack either way. But now I've got to block 2 on a dodge roll, which I do not. And so I block 1, take 2, and then that will also daze Prime. And so I think that largely ends things because he needs 3 points to win. And so here, there really isn't much I can do to try to wrap things up. And so there's a couple of attacks that get made, but it's not super relevant. At this point, Cable, Cyclops, and Spectrum are going to control that secure and hold 2 extracts. So he's going to have 4 points over there. We are going to go ahead and play it out and see if there's a way for me to dig out another turn. But this is where the mistake of not walking the Sentinel onto the point really takes away the potential for us to go to a 5th round, where maybe there was a chance if I did that. So what I'm thinking here is, what if Red Skull can do his super spender shenanigans and daze both of them by getting extra attacks. He forgot that he was incinerated, so he's going to reroll the block. But Cyclops is invulnerable, so he takes 1. So I spend 4 to spender him again. This is just hoping to pop off and get the triggers, but I don't get it on either one. And so I deal no damage there. And so Red Skull accomplishes nothing really with the double spender. He does 1 damage to Colossus. And so, all right, well, I think we can call it there. That is going to wrap up the game. What a great win for Brett. Doing cool things with Cyclops for sure. And I remember when we were putting together a list for this, I was like, hey, dude, do you want to try Spectrum in the Cyclops list? I feel like this is a good mission for Cyclops. And I feel like there's the room there for Spectrum to synergize. And holy crap, way too right in that case. I think the Spectrum and Cyclops synergy actually ended up being kind of insane. It really pushed his leadership up to the next level, where when you're constantly feeding power back to Spectrum, and then Spectrum amplifies up the next character's attack. So you end up in this case where, you just end up in this great power cycle that is generated from the extra consistency that she adds, which turns on the leadership. Yeah. Very cool. Actually kind of made me want to try a Cyclops Spectrum list. So I think that would definitely be worth digging into. Overall, Sentinels were cool. Excited for the future with Nimrod and Bastion, and so hoping that they round out the team, but just wanted to put them on the table, and it was my first game after having all 3 of them painted. So hey, we tried things out. We got to experiment. I'm not sure Sentinels are quite there yet, but maybe there's something with that Cyclops Spectrum idea. There could be gold in them hills. So we'll go ahead and close things out there. Brett, thank you so much for the game. You shot the crap out of my Sentinels, but maybe that is what mankind deserves, because mutants deserve their place. And we'll close things out there. Later, nerds.